Hi folks, this is International Master Kostya Kavutskiy, and today I'll be doing a video on the subject of trapping pieces. So I'll be showing you guys a number of examples featuring some tactics involving trapping our opponent's pieces, and I'll try to discuss a little bit about how you can train yourself to be able to spot these resources more effectively and more accurately in your games. This first example is black to play and win. And if you'd like, you can pause the video and try to solve the position. And without any further ado, here is the solution. Well, black wins with the move e3. So pitching a pawn forward with a double attack against the rook and knight. If white wants to avoid losing material immediately, he has to play bishop takes e3. And after d4, it turns out this bishop is trapped on e3 and black is winning a piece. Fairly simple tactic once you know the theme is trapping pieces, but in a game, of course, no one is hinting to you that you have some kind of tactic available, and so I'm sure a lot of players would miss this tactic even though normally they would be able to spot it in a puzzle. So how do you train yourself to find these opportunities? Well, for one, you definitely need to be looking at all forcing moves in the position as soon as they come up. So this move e4, e3, this should be a move you kind of appreciate in every position because it's potentially involved in some tactic because it's forking two pieces, it's very forcing. Tactically, it seems significant. If you're kind of investigating this move on every turn, then when you reach this position, you should be able to notice that, oh, bishop takes e3 is forced. You continue to look for forcing moves, and you will notice that d4 traps the bishop. I think most players, if they miss a tactic, it's because they weren't quite looking for a tactic in that position, and you kind of need to work on this so that you can be able to spot tactics in almost every game you play. Our next example here is white to play and win. The theme is again trapping pieces. If you'd like, you can pause the video and try to solve the position for yourself. And this puzzle is quite difficult, especially, as I mentioned before, if you're unaware of the theme. Most of my students are unable to solve this one, mainly because they're not looking for the right idea from the start. But of course, it comes without any hints or guidelines, so if you're on your own in this position, it is quite a difficult puzzle to figure out. Well, here white wins, starting with the move bishop takes f7 check. Rook takes f7 is more or less forced. And after knight c4, turns out that the queen on a5 ends up being trapped, has no safe squares. Now, this is a very hard tactic to spot, especially if you're not looking for it or if you're not aware of the position of black's queen. Here it seems like the queen is kind of running short on squares, but it does have b6 and c7 available, so it's not like your intuition should have been screaming at you, to try and trap the queen. This one I think is solvable more of just being very in tune with the position and again looking for those forcing moves. Bishop takes f7 is apparent enough, and after rook takes f7, if your visualization is really crystal clear, you should notice this opportunity with knight c4, that this square has become opened up for the knight with tempo. And again, if your visualization is strong, then you'll notice that, oh, black's queen actually runs out of squares very quickly. So very nice, a short and sweet puzzle that ends with black's queen being trapped. So let's move on to the next one. Here we've got black to play and win. And once again, I'd encourage you guys to pause the video and try to solve the puzzle for yourself. And here, once again, it's the queen that gets in trouble. But how exactly can black trap it? Because rook to c7, this is met with queen takes b6, and white is fine. Instead, you might notice that if only we could get the bishop to e8, this would be able to snag white's queen. Thus, we have to get rid of this rook, ideally with tempo, otherwise white might get a tempo to save himself. And so rook takes f3, this is the winning idea. Black has captured a piece, and after white recaptures, bishop e8 shows up on the board, trapping white's queen and winning the game. Another very difficult puzzle to see if you're not looking for a way to trap white's queen. If you just had this position in a game, I'm sure most of us would not even be aware of this opportunity to play bishop to e8. Hence the difficulty and importance of these puzzles in order to at least train your intuition a little bit in terms of sensing some of these opportunities. So let's move on to the next one. This next puzzle is white to play and win. And once again, if you'd like, you can pause the video here before I show you the solution and attempt to solve it yourself. I think this one isn't too difficult, especially since at this point you've already known the theme and you've seen several examples of this so far. Here, white has a way by force to trap black's queen, and that starts with the move knight to g6 check. Now, whether black recaptures the knight or not is not really relevant because white's next move is going to be h3, trapping black's queen on g4. So after f takes g6, white plays h3, and this queen ends up being trapped. Now, this puzzle, I think, is solvable, especially in a real game if you didn't know, for example, that there was a solution in the position, because I think this queen on g4 already would appear vulnerable to most of us. It has very few escape squares, so to speak, and a move like h3 here would be a very natural, let's say, candidate move for most of us, because this would force black's queen to go back to g7 or to g8. And once you see that the queen only has one escape route from your position, that kind of screams out for some kind of tactic in order to trap the queen inside of our camp, so to speak. And knight g6 check should make itself apparent because, again, this is a forcing move. We're hitting the king, we're hitting the rook, and we're blocking off the escape route for black's queen. So a bit of words of advice when you're looking for solutions to these problems. Of course, included with this video are going to be several exercises on trapping pieces. Be very aware of which of your opponent's pieces are lacking escape squares or safe squares to use. Once you do notice, then look for ways to either seal off their escape or with tempo try to find a way to attack the piece and, of course, control the escape squares. If you're doing that, hopefully over time by solving enough puzzles, your intuition gets built up to a point where during a game, if you have some kind of opportunity like this available, you might be able to kind of sense it. You notice one of your opponent's pieces is lacking squares and has some potential to be trapped, and you'll also be able to instantly find the way exactly to trap that piece. Well, with that, we'll end it here. Hopefully you guys try your best on the exercises, and until next time, this was International Master Kostya Kavutskiy signing off.